Welcome to the first of OAG's In Conversations. Today I'm talking with Martin Gauss, the CEO of airBaltic, about his experiences and learnings through the COVID-19 event and how airBaltic has responded to the challenges that they and many airlines have had to face at short notice. Martin, I know from chatting to you in the past and just following your career, it's been a fascinating journey that's led you to airBaltic and Riga. Perhaps you'd just like to share some of the highlights and some of the crises that you've worked your way through in such an illustrious career.
When I came to airBaltic in 2011, the airline was in big distress. It was technically bankrupt. And what we did, we rebuilt that airline at the time. We mainly focusing on simplicity, taking cost out, simplifying the fleet. And we had a plan, a long-term plan. We ordered new jets for us. They arrived in 2016, the Airbus A220, which then became the backbone of the success story which followed. And we took a decision that we would be by 2023 have only Airbuses. And we were on track with good results to achieve all of this. Exceeding $500 million revenue last year. And January, February this year in 2020 looked amazing. We were well ahead of what we wanted to do. So we were looking forward to go for an IPO in the future. Then COVID came and it hit the world so hard, especially the aviation industry, that now 3 months later, where we just started scheduled operations again, I see myself doing exactly the same thing, rebuilding the airline. But of course now with a very different base, because we had a plan before, we adjusted the plan, and what I have here is a world-class team together with me, and we used the last 3 months to prepare for that restart. And now the first 4 weeks we are in that restart, and we are looking positive into the future. But what has happened is like a bankruptcy again. Yeah, so airlines have been basically put into a situation where most airlines are not able to do it without major capital injections from their shareholders.
Right. So when COVID first sort of appeared on the horizon, I think you were one of the first airlines and one of the first country markets that took a pretty brave and a bold decision to shut down early. Do you think that has been a major contributing factor to be able to come out earlier than many others from the event?
I definitely think so. What happened here, we evaluated the situation and then we took a decision as a company to say, let's turn to the government and stop flying completely, because Latvia at that time had very low infection rates, and we saw the no-show rate, mainly the no-show rate and the forward bookings changing on a daily basis so dramatic that we decided we better stop completely now. The country then helped us with an emergency law put in place, and we were the first airline which stopped completely scheduled operations. And we did that, I think, 4 weeks before others eventually had to stop, or some of them never stopped. And what we did then on the day, and I remember it was here in this office when the Prime Minister was speaking, all the management team was sitting around the table here. We basically stopped flying. We made our headquarters like a hospital. We sent everybody home, and only the top management team, 11 people, and 2 more, security and contact to the Virological Institute, stayed. And we spent day and night in the first 3 weeks, also the weekends here. We had very strict rules on us on hygiene. We went through several COVID tests, the whole team again and again, because at that time, of course, more and more restrictions came. The positive effect for Latvia, we had a very, very slow rise of infections. And I think Latvia is the second best country in the world on that, if you do this comparison of how it was dealt with and how many infections per person.
Yeah.
One of the reasons was that the country really shut down also aviation completely. We then, on that very first day, focused only on one thing, to stay. So the focus was, whatever comes now, we need to stay, which means reduce the cost and look for new liquidity. While we were doing this, we said, what are we doing if we see that we can stay? We said we need to revise our product. And we did that. And then we were ready to restart, and we came up with a plan on how to restart. And we started actually 4 weeks ago by saying we will start only with 5 aircraft, and then we add 1 aircraft per week. We also took out on that first day of stop, already on that day, we took out 40% of the total capacity. We reduced our fleet from 38 aircraft to 22, and we brought forward the decision to only fly Airbuses by 3 years. So our previous business plan would have said we go in 2023 only on Airbus, but now we took a decision, and that's the key to the new product. We only fly the Airbuses. So we did all that work at a very high level, then over time added a few people in the headquarter, but we run the airline from the headquarter for 3 months to prepare it for the restart. And I have to say that that was a very successful restart so far. We are now in week 4, and we see that what we planned worked. And now we're just adding an aircraft per week and look forward that more and more of the restrictions in Europe are lifted, and we can continue doing what we were doing before very well. Not that this is all easy and not that it will be over soon, but there will definitely be a future for aviation in the next years. And we will soon see how long that takes until we are back to levels which we saw before.
I'm sure. And one of the things that is quite interesting and also quite frustrating for an airline, I guess, is how many iterations of your network plan you go through in these types of circumstances. And I just wondered, did you run numerous network scenarios, or did you from the very beginning, or did you just wait until you could see a clearer vision of what the new normal was going to be and then match your network to that new normal?
We took a decision very early to say if we start again, and nobody knew at that time when the restart would be. So we assumed it would be the 1st of July. So we were very conservative. We decided already in March that we expect it would happen on the 1st of July. But at that time, we said we will start only with 5 Airbuses and then add 1 aircraft per week. And we also said that we're going to start from all Baltic countries again and add 1 aircraft per week. Doing this in March, we had a full-blown schedule out there with destinations. But then the reality kicked in that these different countries we were planning to go to had very different and still have very different rules and regulations. So in front of me is the 10th update of that network within 4 weeks. So it's a very, very dynamic update. It's basically now happening every week. We are updating the network and adjusting it to the new information coming from the different countries. And that will be staying for a while. I would say that stays until autumn if there's no second wave coming, before you will really have the normal network planning where you go in half-yearly intervals. But at the moment, we're doing it several times a week. And for the public and into the systems, we are changing it every week. It's the 10th update on a 4-week operations of our network.
Wow. And I imagine that all of your conventional planning tools, all of those things such as revenue management, forward booking curves, etc., are non-existent. So it really is all about intuition now, I assume, for the next couple of months.
Yes, so revenue management systems, especially the historical data, are irrelevant. Also, competitive data, which you look at what your competitors do, are irrelevant because the competitors are also not acting as they did before, because they also do the same we do. Passenger behavior is very different. If you look at the channels now, it has jumped to our benefit to our own website, because this is where people now trust. While before there was a lot of traffic going via OAGs and also travel agencies are not back to the levels they used to be before. But yes, all of it now, we can base, of course, a network on historical data, because the route which worked before very well will be working well in the future. But you can, for example, Moscow is a strong route, but that is closed. So this one is not there yet. Then we had Germany opened a bit earlier, so we increased frequency on German routes where you would have maybe increased on one of the top routes to Sweden. Sweden still being closed. So that dynamic is there, and you cannot. There's no system which can forecast what are these COVID coefficients in the next weeks or months. So therefore, a lot of it is taking historical data and then making the best out of it. On revenue management, of course, you use the system to do proper pricing, but the load factors are different. They range from 5% on one flight to 100% on another flight, and any forecast can only be wrong. So it's like at the moment we have to see and then adjust, and that's what we do every day.
Mm-hmm. And how we've had discussions in the United Kingdom about bubbles and corridors, and there was probably, I think it was about 1 month ago, lots of interest about the bubbles that were being created around you. Do you think that they are a short-term solution, or do they create more confusion than clarity?
Looking at the Baltic bubble, it was as the Baltics were doing very well on the infections, so they had the chance to do that, and they are an area which anyway the Baltics, the three countries, are seen as one area. Therefore, that I think was a good decision. It was not so much affecting air travel because the flying just within the Baltics is not so efficient as the ways are pretty short.
Yeah.
But this is how we started, and that enabled us actually the Baltic bubble to also start as airBaltic from all Baltic countries again on the same day. While if that wouldn't have been created, we would have had some issues starting in the two neighboring states, Lithuania and Estonia. So with the Baltic bubble, at least we had a very strong base to start. The bubbles itself, when they are created now, it's not bubbles anymore. It's each country takes these decisions very differently, and I think we need to get to a system where it's clear how it's done, because I think IATA has published something now on the website which they update several times a day, and I looked at it. It's super confusing. So for us as an airline, it's confusing. So it must be even more confusing for a customer who wants to book a ticket, because how can you rely if you book, if that country today says you have to have quarantine and the next morning you read something you don't have quarantine. But it's very difficult because all these countries now take the decisions just focusing on themselves, which is normal. So I do not see that there will be a common approach to that problem for a while until all countries are COVID-free or easing it. We will see that. And what we see more and more now is the countries who started again, like the Baltics, like Germany. Austria yet now is changing a lot. So these things get much easier, and on a weekly base, you see the change, the positive change, and then the bookings coming back. But the UK, one of our strongest markets at the moment, we don't know. And I think nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I think the UK airlines are going to court against the quarantine rules. But then these rules are not made for fun. And for sure somebody thought about it when making the rules. So for us as airlines and also for the customers, it's a very tricky territory at the moment.
Mm. Did you get involved in any repatriations or conversions or use of the aircraft cabins for PPE type cargo consignments and movements at all?
Yeah, as we stopped so early, the only thing we were able to do then is act as a repatriation carrier for the Baltics. And yes, we even had a brand created, Vido Majas, which means in Latvian coming home. It was a very successful program, but each of these flights had to go through very special procedures, governmental approvals, and also the hygiene rules. We were flying most of these flights under the so-called Category 3. IATA has this recommendation for China flying where you are in full body suits with FFP2 or 3 masks and no food, nothing on board. So this was the way how we did the repatriation flight. We also did a couple of flights to bring masks to Latvia. Actually, I remember that when Europe was discussing mask issues, we already landed in Riga back from China with 1 million masks on board. well ahead of others, and we did not ever have that issue here that we didn't have masks. We as an airline, I think we are the only airline in Europe which gives every passenger a basic care kit with including a mask, because we were able to do so as we ordered these masks and brought them ourselves from China in the beginning. So we took all these decisions, having an airline on the ground, and focus was on staying and then revising the product. So we had a lot of energy and time to plan that while we were in parallel doing repatriation flights. But Latvia is a small country, or the Baltics, 6 million people in the Baltics. So the amount of flying was not as it was, for example, in Germany.
I'm sitting here sort of chuckling away, thinking it's typical of airBaltic and your sort of leadership that when the rest of Europe is wondering where to get PPE equipment, your aircraft has landed and it's already taxiing in with what everyone else in the European Union is wanting. It's just so ironic. Small can be beautiful, there's no doubt.
Yeah, there's a good one. We landed here with there was a picture taken in China, in Urumqi actually, where the masks we organized it with our people in house, right, to ship that mask to Urumqi airport. We took one of our Airbuses and flew direct. We did all the approvals and everything as a small airline, and we landed here with these 1 million masks for a country with 1.9 million people. That was a big number. And we didn't do anything about it. There was a tweet and there was a picture and there was local media. But we as airBaltic, I didn't as a CEO stand in front of the masks. About 2 weeks later, I see all this news about the big carriers bringing masks to the countries. That was 2 weeks later, while we already, I think, had the third flight coming here. We were just doing it at a time when others were not thinking about it. And then we saw all these issues on how you fly to China and so on, while we already had done it. So yes, I think because we were focusing already on a restart of the airline, we had the capacity, because the airline was not doing scheduled operations anymore, to focus on these things. And it helped us. It helped us through that whole process, because when it was about the restart, it was clear we would have an envelope, a sealed envelope with disinfection wipes, with a message caring about the passengers and including a masks in there. To have that ready to start the operations, you had to do a lot of things, and we were doing these things, and I'm very proud that the team came up with all these ideas and we were ready to do so when we started operations.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be, even in that 3 month sort of lockdown in head office, to be able to put together such a program, which is very different to your normal operation, must, for the whole team and the whole employee and workforce, just must give them so much kudos and sort of feeling that, there is still a role for them to play when things are getting really tough.
Yeah, I think the team, if you would ask them, the 11 people here, the top management team of airBaltic, if you spend 3 months together, all of us, and we were all also locked into this city because we couldn't travel anywhere. We have a couple of expats, but mainly local people. There were a lot of people who had a birthday in this time. And if you would have been here with us in these 3 months, this was like a family. So that management team was working so hard and so close together, which you normally would only see in a family. And how we took care of each other. Just simple things like food. Yeah. There were colleagues who just brought the food for others, because that is an issue when you have no canteen and this airport is closed. So there was not even these things worked. And the hygiene rules, everybody measuring his temperature every morning, putting a lock. Everybody did a lock for himself. Then we all went through the COVID tests again and again, and basically going each day and having highlights in the face where everybody is depressed because you're not flying, but really preparing that restart. And now what we see now as our people are coming back, that it really worked. It's really an example of how to deal with such a crisis, because I'm praising myself, which I should not, but it's the team which did it, and alone you cannot do that.
No.
But it is a story which has to be told in the future, because I think we did an incredible job having such a smooth restart. We fly the 4th week now, and numbers are looking good for the time we're in. and we have a clear plan, and nobody is nervous about it. Yeah, we're just going forward.
Yeah. Well, if you're not going to tell the story, hopefully this podcast will, because I think it's a fascinating sort of insight that most people would not even have any awareness of. But how does it all now begin to look as you come out? Because presumably, these additional health quarantine requirements, cleanliness, has an impact on your operation in terms of increased cost, perhaps increased connecting times. How's all that? I mean, do you anticipate your cost of operation will increase as a result of taking all the necessary steps?
No, the cost will of course go down earlier than planned, because the focusing only on the Airbus fleet will bring us the maximum cost benefits if you look at a CASK figure.
Yeah.
Now the operation, of course, flying a lot of flights where you don't even you don't make the money you should make, because you have maybe 5 passengers on one sector and then the next sector 60. So we are losing money on some of the flying. But of course, in the future, we will be, because it's only the Airbus fleet, benefit from that simplicity. And what we see in these first 4 weeks is an incredible increase in bookings each week. We are back to booking pattern where people are booking from Monday to Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday is not so much, and then the next Monday is more. And I'm having in front of me, when we started to say that we fly scheduled operation, by having no bookings at all, we immediately jumped to 1,000 in the first week as a number. But yesterday we exceeded 7,000. So for us as an airline, this is a very, very strong number, looking at the capacity which we currently offer. So looking at this very steep increase gives us a very good feeling that we will be going back to where we were. But of course, it will take time, because we will only be flying by the end of this year a maximum of 25 aircraft. And the time until we have 20 aircraft will be earliest in the end of August. So it's a very slow start. But cost-wise, once we are in the full operation next year, we intend to break even already next year. But this year, of course, there is so much losses coming from not flying or from flying and not making money that we will not be profitable next year. We hope to break even. It depends a lot on how this year ends. But we see from the numbers at least now that we are going back, because we took out a lot of capacity and we simplified the product, but by only focusing on the Airbus A220.
That's good. I think one of the fascinating things about this, and the general public, I think, do not appreciate it, but we've touched on it before, is most airlines, because of government support, and I think the US is a great example with the CARES Act, look like they will be able to sustain some type of operation and begin some type of recovery that will take them through to the end of October, November, and the winter programs. But I don't know what your opinion is. It seems to me that that's just, half time in this battle. And the hardest part is actually going to being able to get through next winter, when cash reserves traditionally become depleted, forward bookings dry up, and demand softens. What's your thoughts about that? Do you think we've got a lot more consolidation and perhaps difficulties for the industry to face?
Yes, I think we have not seen at all what is coming, because if we look now, I can judge from myself and then from what is publicly available from competitors. While airlines are not flying yet, and the majority of the scheduled carriers ramp up mid of June in Europe, while not flying, and by postponing lease payments and by having idle time pay and all these kind of support mechanisms while you're not operating, you're somehow making it through. But the moment you start flying, and now I'm looking at everybody, look at ACMI operators, right? Mm-hmm. Their business model was to fly for others, and I haven't heard of any of them not being in business anymore. But when they want to come back to business, what's the base? Yeah, who's going to take ACMI in at the moment when everybody has his own fleet grounded? The next thing is airlines which are not having the shareholders being able to support them through the summer and the winter, they will start flying, and then they will find out that there is not enough bookings, and therefore, as you say, there will be cash flow issues coming. So I think we will see a lot of airlines giving up after they have started again, because that hope, of course, is there that somehow you fill up your aircraft. And I think key to this is either you are part of the infrastructure of your country, like a Lufthansa, a Air France, or you are a Ryanair who say, okay, we have so much cash, we go through this, and we do believe that we can fill all our aircraft again. Or if you cannot fill your aircraft, you will just find out later that you had not enough money and you collapse. And I agree with you, we might see a lot of airlines being out of business next year.
And I simplifying your whole business model, as you've done over the last 3-4 months, puts you in a really good position, both for the summer, which, hopefully the forward booking trends you'll see and will accelerate, but also to go through the winter. How crucial will all of those code shares you have with all of those major global alliances be in that? Are you hoping to get more feed coming back from them quickly?
The Cochairs were for us very important because of the connectivity which we offer then flying from the Baltics to the destinations of our Cochair partners, and then people could fly onwards. So that is important. But what is more important is that we have the major carriers as Cochair partners. They have an intense distribution network, and the sales coming from their side, of course, will help us, because airBaltic is a small carrier sitting in the Baltics, but we have had a lot of the customers coming through our Cochair partners. So, of course, we hope that they continue selling the tickets, because there was a demand on their end to sell tickets as a Cochair partner, as we hope to sell also on their code and on their flights. So, yes, I do believe that this will come back, because we were offering a connectivity, and connectivity will stay in the world. Yeah. As we see now, there's a lot of friends and relatives flying. At the moment, the business flying is not there, but the connectivity of this planet will be reestablished. And a very good number I read yesterday somewhere in the news, that in China, the domestic capacity is back to 90% of what it was before. That is a very good indication that there is a demand for flying and connectivity, and airBaltic is a connectivity provider. So therefore, I see our Cochair partners and us offering that connectivity, and I see the need for that in the future. But at the moment, I have to say that this is a lot of leisure flying and friends and relatives. Business will still take a while.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm literally just been looking at those Chinese numbers, and surprisingly, Vietnam's domestic market is back to the same level as it was this week last year. So I think there are some encouraging signs around the world. What is quite interesting is how pre-COVID, the aviation industry had become heavily and quite rightly focused on environment, sustainability, and all of those sort of things. And many airlines have just parked it at the moment, because survival is far more important than sustainability, at least for the next couple of months. But you've got some pretty good credentials in that environmental sustainability issue, haven't you, as an airline?
Yeah, we took a different approach on this, because we were short before with the Airbus A220 as a decision to only fly that aircraft in 3 years from now. That was the plan. We wanted to have a very, very sustainable fleet, because that aircraft is the greenest narrow body in the market. So what we did now, we said this sustainability discussion and the need for it will come back. I agree. There is now survival mode and nobody talks about it. We are using more plastic than ever before because of hygiene. But once the COVID is over or is in control, that sustainability debate will come back much, much stronger. And what we did in revising our product, we took that as a key element to focus on this approach already now. And the decision to focus only on the A220 was also to be ready for that sustainability approach. And we even changed the names of our ticket fares to green, also to reflect that in the name. And of course, as airBaltic has the green tails, we had a natural advantage for that, coming from a very green country. So we will, of course, use that also now. But I agree, right now the ramp up is the sustainability discussion is not there. But if we talk in 1 year from now, I'm pretty sure that is very high on the agenda, because what the world learned is that if industrial production reduces, the air gets cleaner. And it is something we all have to do. And maybe after that crisis, there will be even an acceleration once we go back to that debate. And for that, I believe by focusing only on the A220, we took a big step forward and accelerated the airline on the way to sustainability.
I think you're absolutely right. And having been to Riga, the beaches just outside the city centre had some amazing fresh air a couple of years ago. So now I should think it's the cleanest in the world. But as a CEO, Martin, I mean, you know, you've worked through some very challenging appointments in your career. What are the key takeaways that you've learned from COVID-19? Is it you know, act quick and cut deep early? Is it get the best team together? What are the key learnings that if there was COVID-20, heaven forbid, what are the key learnings you would take out of this event?
The key learning is act. And act, take a decision, then revise your decision. Do it fast and do it with a team. Challenge yourself in the team and be open, but take decisions, take them. And then if you overdid it, which in a lot of things I think we all doing when we take decisions, then correct your decision. And one more thing, and we had to unemploy, unfortunately, 40% of our workforce. Also that we did within 2 weeks after we stopped, we initiated the process because it was key to reduce our cost. And what we did, we communicated, and what the communication side, what happened in this company, from one day to another, we sent home 1,700 people to stay at home. But we had to communicate with them, and we had an intranet, an internal internet, which we used for communications and email. And the usage of the intranet was increasing because we did daily video podcasts, daily video updates to the staff every day on top of written information. And it increased from 3,000 usage to 12,000 usage per week. We have this as a statistic and we're showing it. It hasn't stopped. So people are relying on whatever we put there to communicate. And what we did, we communicated every step we did to the people sitting at home. Also all the negative ones where we have this interactive, I do live streamings and we have the Slido system where people can ask any question. It's not filtered, it's anonymous. So you can imagine from 1,700 people sitting at home in the deepest crisis of the industry, what fears are there, and they came out, and what anger. But we faced it, and we still do it every week, live streaming, and I answer any question to any subject, even very rude things. I answer it live because I think it is key in such crisis to give an answer. So take a decision, revise your decision, but communicate. And that is what we did here. And the feedback from our staff is that this communication was the best thing we did.
And it's interesting because it's only one word, but leadership, you know, is so important, and visibility of leadership, where, you know, there are other examples in Europe where such leadership seems to have been lacking from airlines that maybe have just bunkered down and hoping to weather out the storm. But from what you're saying, I mean, it's been an inspirational lesson for you and the whole company.
It is, and I have to say, being a leader for many years, I have been through different crises. I was in DBA when September 11 happened. I was director of flight operations, had to deal with that. I was there when a volcano came. I was here when this airline was in bankruptcy, was also a crisis. But this crisis is in our industry the biggest one we had, but it is one of the crises in the future we had. And being part of it and being able to lead the airline through it is very interesting. And I have to say, I'm very proud. The proudness comes from not only what I did, but that feedback now we get from our people, even from the ones we unemployed. You should see the messages where people wrote, I have to leave the company, but I really thank you. And we had that X times saying, I'm really thankful for your transparency and openness, and I hope that I can join you in the future again. These kind of statements you wouldn't get if you are not doing it right as a company. And we did that, and we have many testimonials there. People writing emails saying that they really loved the job, they leave, and they want to come back. I think then you can be proud of what you did as a team going into this crisis and coming out of it now.
Martin, I think if you haven't written a book or you've not contracted to write a book on your experiences, can you let me have the first opportunity to be your agent? Because I think it's a fascinating story. And I've got some ideal pictures for the front covers.
Yeah, I going through this crisis, I took a decision to write a book. It will be published in spring. I have professional advice on that, and I am actually doing it because everybody says that this is such an incredible story. The first one in 2011, now followed by the second one. And of course, the book will be published at a time when we have shown that second turnaround was working even better than the first one. So that is already happening. I have to say sorry, but I have already somebody who is saying do that, and I'm actually doing it.
Well, I think the two important things are, one, make sure that it's available on Amazon Kindle so it's environmentally friendly, and also make sure you get it put on your in-flight products so that people can buy it as well.
Yeah, so we have this idea that this airBaltic story is then printed in 67 languages and available on all channels. I'm joking, but yes, we will make sure that the airBaltic story is out there once it's clear that we should tell it.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. So, I mean, in closing, despite all of this, you continue to be excited and you see optimism for airBaltic and for the industry generally.
Yes, I'm very excited. I think I'm at the best time of my life to take an airline or a company forward. I'm heavily motivated to do that after being 3 months together with my team. There's nothing else I want to do for the foreseeable future in my life than taking this airline back to where it should be. Yeah, I'm very, very motivated to do so and happy to do it. It's tough and it will not be easy, but I'm very, very motivated to do it.
It becomes personal, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. Being not a Latvian person, not a Latvian national, living here in this country and having this hospitality from the people, it is very personal for me to do this for airBaltic and for this country.
Brilliant. Martin, I'm going to stop there and say thank you very much. I've taken too much of your time and I know it's very valuable and really do appreciate it. I don't think there'll be any on-time performance awards for anyone this year, but I'd love to be giving you some trophies in January 2022. So let's hope that happens. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm looking forward to see you maybe before that in person, but also thank you for the opportunity to have that podcast. A
fascinating insight from Martin and some great examples of how airBaltic coped with the early stages of COVID-19 and are now seeing a positive recovery to their business. Join us in the next few weeks for more In Conversation podcast with other aviation leaders. And in the meantime, please visit OAG.com where you can see all of our latest analysis, information and news, which of course can be used to help you see your way through the challenging market conditions we face today. Thank you.